Well, hello there, folks. Today we've got an issue with the washing machine. I've got an LG upright washing machine that's up on a pedestal, and the problem that I'm having with this is that it starts the cycle and water doesn't seem to get dispersed back out of the system. It builds up the water, it starts the cycle, and then the water gets stuck. So ultimately, after troubleshooting it, I have finally figured out that it is the pump that is located down here at the bottom. And what this pump does is it drains the water out of the basket. This pump has started to fail. So we're draining the water out of that pump. We're gonna go ahead and let that drain. So as you can see, we've got this water taken out of the system. We're gonna go ahead and pull the little filter cartridge out. When you pull that filter cartridge out, you might have some debris in it. However, I've already cleaned this one out. That's not the issue. It's the pump that sits right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to disassemble this and start to replace the pump. So before we get started, we're going to go over a list of the items that we may need. So we've got our shop towels right here. We're going to need those. We've got a plier, smaller one. We've got our drill in case if there's a lot of Phillips head screws, we can use that to make it easy. Got the two screwdrivers, a flat and a Phillips head. We've got our bigger plier for some of the other connections on the back, and then I've got assorted bits based on what I need, and then of course I've got my gloves. So let's get started. Okay, so after you've got this machine slid out from the wall, the first step that you want to do is you want to go ahead and you want to disconnect the power. So let's take the power out just so we can make sure the thing's not live. And then the next step we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these water hoses. These are under pressure, so you always want to make sure that you come in here and you shut them off. I've already shut mine off, but you want to make sure. And then you want to keep a bucket nearby because as you take these off, there's going to be a lot of water down here. So let's go ahead and do that. So as you can see, we've got one hose disconnected. It's right here. I've got a little towel underneath just in case if there's drips of water. I'm going to go ahead and do this second side. Okay, so we've got both of these water pressurized hoses taken off. Now we're going to go ahead and start to take off these two screws, those two screws, and lift this top cover off. What that's going to enable us to do is to go in the front, pull the tray out, and there's more screws. So you're going to basically take off this cover, and this cover holds the front cover with some screws on. So we'll remove this, and then we'll go ahead and go in the front. Okay, so we've got the screws taken out over here. There were two more screws, one right here, one right here. These are above the water pressure hoses. And then the two screws with the clamp right here. After you do that, you're going to have to use a flathead screwdriver, gently pry this back part off. It basically, after sitting so long, it gets stuck. But as you can see, the whole top is able to lift off. But you don't want to lift it off yet. You've still got the front to do. So we come here to the front. You pull out the soap basket. The soap basket basically has two screws, one right here and one right here that we're going to go ahead and pull off. Now, in order to get to those two screws, you're going to have to use this clamp right here, and with two hands, push down with one hand on this clamp and pull on this basket, and that pulls it out. So after those two screws are out, we've basically got to open the door, and we've got two screws right here. These are the locking mechanism screws. They're basically connected to the back part of the machine, so we need to pull those off in order to get this cover off. After you've got those two screws off, you're now going to come back up here. At this point, this cover is just held on by some clamps right here. You're going to lift this cover off and take it off, and that's going to expose the other screws needed to pull the rest of this off. Okay, so you can see we've got the cover off now completely. Got everything exposed. If you look, on this particular model, there's no screws. Other models I've seen have screws. You've just got the tabs here. So you're going to basically flip all these tabs. Make sure not to break them, but use your screwdriver and take the tabs as you're pulling and pull this off. Okay, so I've now got this panel off. It basically slides out when you release those clips. However, it is still connected, and I don't need to disconnect this to do that pump replacement. So what I'm going to do is gently put it up here and let it just kind of rest on the frame. So now that I've done that, you can see I've got one screw here, I've got one screw here, I've got another one here and another one here, and that basically holds this cover on. So we're going to go ahead and proceed to take those off. Now, as you can see, I've got the screws taken out. and this cover basically just is almost falling out. The only other thing that you have to do now to get this cover off is to remove the spring that holds the collar on. This collar is the one that sits between the cover and the basket for the seal when the door closes. There's a large spring in here that we need to pull off. So folks, as you can see here, I've got my screwdriver onto this band clip. There's a band that goes all the way around that holds this gasket in place. When the door is closed, it seals it up. So basically what I did is I pushed my screwdriver through here, I grabbed this band, and now I'm gonna just pry it all the way around and get this thing off. As you can see right here, this is how that band comes out. There it is right here. This is the whole band. I'm going to continue to remove it all the way around with my fingers, and that's it. And this is the spring band that holds the gasket in place. Now that we've got the band taken out, all we have to do is just pry this rubber all the way around and push it in so that we could release this door. So all you need to do, once you have the spring that holds it in place out, grab it from the bottom here, and that's it. And you can see it just pulls out. And you're just going to basically pull it all the way around, and just push it all the way in, and this cover will literally come out. Okay, so now we've got the front door completely taken out. We've got basically access to our pump right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this screw, and we're going to pull the pump from the back. We also have to release this tube. We're going to release this tube. There's a clamp right here. I don't know if you can see it. There's a clamp right here. Remove this clamp, pull it off, take this connector off, and release these two screws, and you'll go ahead and pull this pump off. And you also have a pipe here, which is your drain pipe that comes into the pump. That also needs to be released. So 2 pipes and 1 connector, 2 screws, and you should be able to pull it out. Okay, so once you've got the 3 screws released, and I do want to correct it. I said 2 screws earlier. It's actually 3 screws. I missed the bottom one. So there's 1, 2, and 3 screws right here. Once you have those released, you can easily move it back out of there, and then you have access to this clip right here, and the back connector for the electronics. So here's the entire part. This right here is the actual motor, and this is your flange and your pump. You can see in here, it's all clear. However, the motor has stopped spinning or the impeller is broken. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off these screws that hold it in place. There's 3 of them, and pull the motor apart. And then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so now we've got the impeller taken apart. It's completely clean on the inside. There's not anything that would cause a problem. Okay, so now we've got this part out. This is a cheap Chinese motor that was made to fit the LG washer. I purchased this motor August 2021, and so it has lasted literally only a little over 1.5 to 2 years, under 2 years actually. So gonna throw this one away. This time around, I didn't go with the cheapest. This time around, I went with an actual LG part. This is the original LG motor. I'm going to go ahead and put this on. We'll do the reverse, and we'll basically put all the screws and everything back together. Okay, so we've got the flange put on now. You have to make sure that you put the flange on in the correct direction. So what I mean by that is it fits on the front of the washer like this. You've got your one hose that connects up here. You've got your 2 electrical, and then you've got the one that connects back here. So make sure that you put the flange on correctly, and tighten down the three housing bolts for it. The screws, 1 screws right here, 1 right here, and 1 right back here. After you get done with that, then you're going to want to put the auxiliary drain hose on. This is the drain hose that sits in the front of the washer in case if things back up, you can at least drain into the bucket. It's like a secondary release. Okay, so as you can see, we're coming along. We've got the 3 screws put on. We've got the housing, we've got the dump tube, the drain tube. I've got the 2 connectors here. On these 2 connectors, it's black and red. The black wire always goes to the back. The red wire is to the front of the machine. I think it is polarity, so you have to make sure that you get the right ones on. This one right here is one of the hoses, and then we've got the second hose connected up here in a few seconds. Okay, so now we've got this dump hose connected. We've got the clamp put on. Right here, there's a little lip on the flange, and then there's a little cut inside the pipe. You want to make sure that you've adjusted it and put that little cut onto that little. It's almost like a keyed area, so that way it prevents this pipe from getting loose. Okay, so as you can see, folks, we've got the clamp on here. We've got the clamp on here. It's keyed right here. The flange is on. 3 screws are done. And we've got the black connector, the red connector up towards the front, and the new motor installed. Now we're going to basically use these 3 clamps right here, these 3 lips, and that is where the bottom part of this cover is going to come and land on. And then we're going to go ahead and put the band clip that goes all the way around, and then put the screws from up here, basket area, put the panel on, and we should be good to go. So as you start to put this cover back on, you're going to notice that the cover doesn't fit completely. It's got a little bit of tension, and that is because you've got your seal right here that we pushed in earlier. So what you're going to have to do is manually pull this seal all the way around and get it to the outside of the door. And once you do that, then the screws for the door can be put in easier. And then remember also that once you do that, you've also got to take care of this clamp, this latch, the door lock latch. That latch has to be put back in with the screws, and then you're going to put the band clamp all the way around. Okay, folks, so as you can see, we've got the screws put back. There's one right here. There's one right here. We got one more right here, and we got one right here. It's a total of 4 screws that hold this front cover on. We were able to put the spring band back on. We were able to put the bottom pieces on. And so, yeah, so we're moving along. Now we're going to go ahead and do this upper panel, and we'll catch you back in a minute. Okay, so you can see that the panel is back on. The way that the panel comes on is you have not the screws, but the clips right here. You have about 4 clips all the way down, and you basically just push it in place. So if you remember, we took the basket out, the soap basket. We're going to go ahead and align it back in here, and then we're going to go ahead and slide it back in, and it just slides right back in. Once you get everything in place and you know for sure that you've got the 2 screws correctly and you've got the latch aligned, you want to test everything out as far as the open and the close, and this is fine. After you put the entire cover on, this bottom cover goes on behind it. And the way that it's secured is, as you can see, there's like a little screw hole right there, and you're basically going to screw that in, run the pipe through, and close that up. So we've got our single screw put in place right there. The cover just fits in, and then you push this pipe back in, and then all you're going to do is put the cap on it. There's a cap right here that I have from the existing. Put that cap on it, and then squeeze it in place. So that's how it should look once you put the cap on. After you get all the covers closed up, you've got the filter. This filter is very important. It basically, as the water is running through, it's supposed to act as a catch to catch all the larger debris. And if you get to a point where you think that the water's not draining properly, it's good to frequently open this up. It's made for that, to open it up and clean it out. So you basically want to just put that back in, and it screws right back in. Once that's screwed in tight, then you go ahead and put the final cover plate on. As you can see, it's got 3 little slots that fit in, and you basically push them in like that, and then close it up. That's it. Last but not least, we've got our top cover. We've got the front on, we've got the band clip on, we've got the bottom pump part done. Now we're going to go ahead and put the top on and tighten up the screws in the back, and then make our water connections. So folks, as you can see, we've got the top clips here that hold them in place. They have 2 little indents that basically fit into this cover, and as you screw it down, it tightens it up and keeps this cover in place. There's 2, one on each side. And the only other thing that we have to do is put back some of these screws that we pulled off for this top cover. Okay folks, so the pump work is done. We've got it all connected. We've got our drain hose, we've got our hot water, our cold water, and we're basically ready to push everything back into the wall and test it out. Okay, so folks, as you can see, I've got the washing machine turned on. I'm running a speed wash test, and we're just going to see if it goes through the full cycle, and if so, we're all good. Well, as you can hear, guys, the pump is working like a champ. It started to drain. Here's the water filling up, and we're going to go ahead and see if this pump now drains this water out once this cycle is done. Drain pump is working like a champ. I can hear the noise down here, smooth, and out here you can hear it draining. Looks like everything's good to go. Folks, I hope this video was helpful to you. If you can, please help me out by liking, commenting, and sharing the video. I'm a struggling new channel, so if you please subscribe and help me out, I'd appreciate it. But looks like we're good to go. All the water just drained out. Thanks, folks.